again, happy Mother's Day. I'm glad you are here today, and remind everyone the red attendance pads in the pew, pass those around today. Get to know a little bit about who's around you, maybe their name if you don't know their name already. Today for Mother's Day, we've got a special treat. We've got a mom who's going to come talk to us. Isn't that appropriate? Other than it means she's sacrificing Mother's Day with family, right? So we really do appreciate that. We came to know Marcia Adams through Kings and Queens Ministry, which is a special needs respite care ministry here at St. Mark's. When she came in and visited with us, she kind of consults with us. And as she came in and visited with us, she told us her story. And as she told us her story, we were going, oh yeah, with God, we can do this. We can do this, and launch the Kings and Queens Ministry. So today it is a privilege and an honor to be able to introduce Marcia to you and know that God will do a work in each one of our lives as we have a testimony of faith in what he has done in hers. Will you join me in welcoming Marcia Adams?
Thank you. I'm Marcia, and I'm married to Doug Adams, and I have 3 kids. I have Allie Adams, who just turned 20, and I have a son, Jake, that's 16, and then I have another son that's 14. And my story started over 20 years ago when I was pregnant with Allie. I was a believer in Jesus Christ, and I had no idea what was ahead of me. I found out that I was pregnant and had all the same plans that everybody else did. I believed that I was going to have a healthy baby and move right on, and we were, you think of all of those things. As a mom and who we are, we plan those ideas are in our head. I mean, that's just our nature. About 18 weeks into my pregnancy, I went for my ultrasound, just the regular standard ultrasound that they do, and they say it's a boy, it's a girl, and all the good fun stuff that you get to see. I got a call. I went home and I got a call back, and they had found something that wasn't right. And so my doctor called me and said, listen, do you know what hydrocephalus is? And I said, I have heard of it before, but I don't know a lot about it. And he said, they found something on your ultrasound, and they want you to come back. And he said, I'm going to need you to see a specialist. He said, and this was in the afternoon. This is after lunch. He's calling me, and he says, but I need you to see that doctor today. And so I knew by the fact that he wanted me to be there that very day that it had to be serious. So I called my husband, and I said, there's something wrong, and we have to go see a doctor, but we have to go today. We have to go back today. So we went back, and they did more extensive ultrasound and did measurements and did, just the things that the specialist does. And he said, let's go talk. So we went into his office. It's kind of a conference room office type thing. And we sat around a round table, and he told us that Allie had, at that time we didn't know if it was a boy or girl for sure. I mean, they gave us an idea. And they said that this baby has hydrocephalus, and he explained to me what it was. It's a neurotube defect, and so the fluid that surrounds the brain, the ventricles did not form properly, and so there's not a pressure valve, so to speak, and so her head, the skull was expanding, her brain was compressed, and the rest of the area was all full of fluid. And he said, this is the worst I have ever seen. And so to be sitting there, everything that I thought was going to happen, everything that I believed in that moment, I felt like it had just been yanked away from me. I was blown away. So I just thought, I just have to get out of this building. So I got out of the building, and then I fell apart. And so then the journey began for me. And so I, believing and knowing that my Heavenly Father doesn't make mistakes and that would meet me where I am, I began to pray. And so the work through my pregnancy until the time she was delivered was extensive and deep inside of me, eternal work. for me to surrender each day, each doctor's visit that I went back to that was terrible news. Every single time it was worse. It was worse. The next one was worse. I dreaded those, but every single day, the next day I would go home. I would just think, I got to get out of this building. I'd fall apart. I'd go home. I would just surrender every moment of that visit, every cell of that new baby to God. And every day after my appointment, I was so full of hope. God was so faithful to fill me with hope. And so through that time, from that 18-week period to she was born at 36 weeks, so I felt like that Satan was just really on us. We were dealing with that, and then our house was broken into and vandalized, and then a couple of weeks after that, we recovered from that, and my husband was driving my Jeep on I-40 and hit black ice, rolled it, totaled it, rolled that Jeep and wrecked it, and he came walking in, and I just thought, my word, what is happening to us? But God was faithful every single time, and I knew all I could do, the only thing, as a believer, I have one decision to make, and it is to choose to trust God. There's nothing else for me to do. I can't take it on. There's nothing humanly possible that I can do. I can only trust God. And so through that process of being pregnant, and it got closer to time, my perinatologist asked me, he said, can I come to your C-section? And I said, sure you can. Because he knew there was something. And he did not know. We didn't have a baby shower. We didn't have a nursery. We didn't prepare anything because we know that we can't predict the future. And I know that, people die of cancer, and my baby could die of this. And I knew that. Those were possibilities. And so I prayed that whatever God's will was, and I got to the place in my journey that I was okay. I was so afraid, but I was so okay with whatever it is. By the time I got to the end of it, I was ready. What is it, God? What do you have for me? Because from the beginning of that journey to 36 weeks, I wasn't the same person, because God had really done an amazing work in my heart with trust and surrendering every single circumstance, anything that we face, anything that I face. Today, I still rely on those promises and those experiences for the things that I deal with today. I look back and I know, and I can count on it no matter what. Just like the sun is coming up, I can count on it. So my doctor came. We went that morning, and they did a C-section. And so when in the process, he said, this baby will not survive. Well, during the pregnancy, he told me she wouldn't survive. And I asked why. He said, because the brain damage will be so great. And I said, okay. And we did do testing at some point. Once he told me that she wouldn't survive, then I did testing, and it came back trisomy 21, which is Down syndrome. And I was so relieved that it was Down syndrome, because at the time during my pregnancy, I had been driving a special ed bus for Putnam City Schools. And for 2 years, that period of time I was pregnant, during that time and the year before, there was a little girl on my bus that had Down syndrome. One kid with Down syndrome on my bus, and I had her for 2 years. And I was so in love with that little girl, I couldn't stand myself. I loved her so much. And whenever I found out that Allie had Down syndrome, the only thing I could do was just pray. That God, I don't know, with all this brain damage, I don't even know, I really don't know what to pray. But the one thing I ask is for quality of life, and I ask, can she just be like Ashley? Because Ashley was super, and I was so in love with this little girl. And so time came, and not knowing, we went in that morning, and they did a C-section, and she cried. Whenever they lifted her up, she cried on her own. And that's the one thing that the doctor told me she will not know to do. The brain damage is so great. So whenever she cried, then I knew it was confirmation to me that God had showed up and that he had been there. He was there because she wasn't even supposed to do that. So here we go, day 1 from delivery, and she's crying. They took her to the NICU, and she stayed, and she had to have a shunt placed, and she stayed 1 week. And that really is remarkable that she only had to stay for 1 week. It was 6 or 7 days. And I would call in to check on her because I couldn't see her yet, and they said, man, she's eating like crazy. I mean, every report was good and beautiful. And so we went home. And so we lived our life. We were so happy. We were delighted. We were scared, but we were so excited because God had showed up, and God was teaching us how to surrender, how to lay all of those things at his feet. That's not our job. Our job is to let go and to let God do that. And so Allie had lots of respiratory issues all through. She outgrew them, but we had up until about age 8 or 9, Allie had lots of respiratory issues, and she was in the hospital, in and out of the hospital quite a bit. And so we would go to the hospital, and I would just think, I can't do this. And so one day I was just at her bedside in that hospital room, and it was just like God said, just give her to me. So I closed my eyes, and the act of just laying her down, what I did was I just closed my eyes and I pictured, and I closed my eyes so I couldn't see anything else, so there would be no distractions, because in these moments like that are so intimate with God, it's so easy for our mind to think of something else, and I go here and go there, and all the stuff that sounds in that hospital room. And I closed my eyes, and I just pictured myself just holding her, picking her up. And I walked down, just like a situation like this, and Jesus was standing there, and I would just take her, and I'd give her back. He had given her to me, but I had to get to the place that I could give her back and surrender all those worries and all those cares and all those thoughts and fears, and I would just give her back. And so that has been something that's been so precious to me through this journey, is that learning how to give things up, learning how to give her up. I didn't want to give her up. I was so excited to have her and to think, I have to come to this place. But I'm telling you, it is such an act of surrender to be able to take that precious girl and give her back. And because I was light as a feather, once I made the decision that's what I'm doing. I have to do that. I have no choice here. And so we learned so many things from eternal things, changing of my heart to I'm not even the same person. I say I'm bound for heaven because of Allie. And so whenever here Allie is growing, and she's like 9, 10 years old, not 8 or 9, and so things would come. She's so socially aware. She's not remotely close to. She is a miracle. She is a complete miracle. And so things will come in the mail for my boys, and she would say, "Is that mine? And is it my turn?" And she would ask me that every day. She would say to me, "Is that mine?" Every day that they would get mail, "Is that mine? Is that for me? Is it my turn?" And it was never her turn. And she had friends at school, and she had peers, and she was involved, but it was never her turn. And so I just started thinking, and the fire just started blazing inside of me, and I thought, this little girl feels this way. Somebody else is feeling this way too. Somebody else is waiting for an invitation or for something to come with their name on it, and they're not getting it. And so I decided to go to my pastor, and I said, there is a population, there are people that have kids just like this that are waiting, that need a place. There are parents that need for somebody to come alongside them. And I said, I feel like we need to do something, and I feel like we need a ministry for special needs kids. And he said, I've already been thinking about that. So God had already gone ahead and prepped his heart too and laid that desire on his heart. And so together, we came together and we formed our special needs ministry that is at Bethany First Church. And so we are almost 12 years into that. And so here we are. We're loving that. That is a beautiful thing. People, parents will say to us, like one parent said, do you know they would bring their son in who has autism and it's a severe autism, and they'll say that we, for 10 years, we have not gone and sat down in a restaurant because we have no family and we have no care for Thomas. And tonight, we are going to a restaurant and we're going to sit down and eat. All because God provided that place, that safe place for that kid to be. We have parents that say we have not been on a date in forever, but we get to do one time a month. We come, we bring her, and then we get to go on a date. So the thing is that God's work is never done. I mean, this started with the journey of a child that was born with special needs, and now we've got this family that says, we get to spend time together. We've got this family that says we are not going to have to go through a drive-thru anymore. It's incredible how God works. And so last May, Allie graduated from high school. So in March, Doug and I, actually in January and then in March, we decided where she was going to go. But we started looking for a place for Allie to go because to have an adult with special needs is a whole different ballgame. And so we went and toured some places, and we decided on Wings in Edmond. Well, I worked in the Bethany School District at the Bethany Schools, and my schedule would be so different than from Allie's because we can't leave Allie by herself. She can't make decisions and choices for herself like that. And so I knew I was going to have to do something different. So I started praying. I said, God, here I am on my knees again. This is big in my life, and I need direction. I need a job. And something else that I learned through this is to pray specific. Be specific in praying. God taught me. It was as if God said to me, standing right here, Marcia, you're not praying specific enough. I had to learn to do that. I was scared of praying specific. That was something that did not come easy for me. From a broken home, and I think that as I grew up and felt the aftermath of something like of a broken family, is that I did not want to be disappointed. And so if I didn't pray specific, and I didn't ask for specific things, and if I just prayed general, then I'm safe. I don't have to fear the disappointment of that. And God said, no way. And so in this process, he said, you pray specific. You're not praying specific enough. That was as if Keith is saying that to me. And I said, then I'm on my knees. I hit my knees and I just started telling God, this is what I want. This is what I feel like I need. And I prayed that God would give it to me before school started this year. A job, something else I could do so I could still contribute at home, but I would be able to tend to my now adult daughter. And I prayed, nothing happened. I kept praying. I had some ugly snot-slinging 2-year-old fits over it, and then saying, if you've forgotten about me, I'm praying, I have to have this. But God continued to remind me, I will take care of you. I will take care of you. But gosh, I just wanted to see the end. I didn't want to have to deal with this part. And so on my knees, every single day, all through the day, God, and the worry of it would come over me, and I'd say, okay, I'm laying it down. I'm not going to carry this. I'm not going to carry this. And so right before school started, I was at a place that a lady acquaintance of mine that I don't see very often, I see her just ever so many years, came walking up the sidewalk and said to me, do you want a job? That's what she said to me. I thought, are you kidding me? And I said, I do. And I didn't know what it was. And she said, Marcia, it's with Oklahoma Family Network. And she said, we have wanted you for several years, but we knew that Allie being in school, that would be complicated for you to be, doing this she said, we are more ready now than we ever have been. Would you be interested in coming to work for us? And I said, yes, I would. I would love to talk to you more about it. So I talked to them. And so what I get to do now is, number one, take care of my adult daughter, get her where she's supposed to go, the place that God completely provided for her to be. And number two, I get to meet families every week that have kids with special health care needs and have kids with special needs, meet them where they are, pray with them, support them, provide them and connect them to resources to help them, and I get to do that because of the journey. Here we go, all this way, and then it's the gift that keeps on giving. Now I get to share my story with families every single week of what God has done for me and support them and encourage them. And so God has taken something that could have been so awful and look at what he has done with it. It is incredible how I get to come alongside people that are and know what they feel and sit with them and support them. And so the thing that I leave you with today is that God did not change my circumstances, but God changed me rather than choosing to do that, because I wouldn't be the person that I am had he changed the circumstances.
One of the things that you've talked about when you're dealing with the families is opportunity to witness, tell your story, and I assume that at times you have opportunity to pray for them.
Yes.
What are some of the ways that you intercede on behalf of others who have special needs in their family? How do you address that?
Well, like in praying with them, well, at first I always ask, can I pray with you? I'll tell you that I met a mom about a month ago, and I walked into the hospital. I was washing my hands, and I could hear her at the end of the hallway. And I looked down, I could see her, and she is from another country. And so I wasn't sure what she was doing. And so I hurried up and I got my hands washed and I went down, and I just stood there, and I was not sure. She was not speaking English, and so I was trying to just observe and not to be too obvious, like, what are you doing? But I was just watching her, and so then I thought, I'm going to make my way. And I went into the room, and I could tell that she had a set of twins, and one had really taken a turn for the worse. And so it was really, really sick. And so Dad was there, and so I just said, I'm going to go. And I walked out, but I stood, when I walked out of her room, she was singing a praise and worship song in English. And I thought, she's a believer. Oh, Lord, we've got to set this place on fire right now for this baby. And so I just said, when two or more are gathered, I said, so I kept thinking, she's going to feel awkward because I'm just staring at her. But I thought, I can't make my feet move. All this is going through my head. I can't make my feet move, but I've got to be here. And in a moment, she turned around and she looked at me. But I'll tell you that they were the groaning of that desperate mother from the depths of her being. I thought, that is what the groans of your heart that's aching, that is what that is. And I said, let me pray for you. Can I pray for you? And she looked at me. She doesn't know who I am. She said, yes. And we grabbed each other and we prayed that hospital down right there for that little baby because he was so sick. But that mom needed somebody to grab a hold of her and say, I am here. I know, I understand, I hear the groaning of your heart, but our Heavenly Father knows everything here, knows everything about you, knows everything about your baby. But that little baby was discharged about a week ago. He is well. And so we prayed and we prayed. And the thing is that it's nice because we could pray. There are moms that I can't tell. I don't know where they are. But I always ask, can I pray for you? And they always, never one time have I been turned down. I just see it's the answer. It's the only thing that we can do. Humanly, I can do nothing, but I can pray. And I can meet them where they are and just say, Father, right now. And then we never know what maybe then what that'll make that mom feel and think, okay, I can do this.
Thank you.
Is that